Start us off, Carter.
It's the day after Halloween, and everyone is just a little sad because Halloween's the best time of the year, and now we have to keep on moving forward. We all had fun and ate some candy. We put on costumes and drank some beer, but now it's November. Nobody likes November, and we just gotta wait until next year. I ate an entire bag of candy corn. Bop. But anyway, this is Don't Sleep on Football. Carter here.
And I'm not a big Halloween guy.
Oh my god. What? All right. Explain yourself, Mollusk.
I've felt like I'm too old for Halloween since I was about, I don't know, 13.
See, but all right. Let me let it do be while I
I
break it down for you
I
here.
love a good
It's not
I
about
love a
the
good
trick or
Halloween
treating,
special.
man.
It's not just
Exactly. It's
trick or
about the
treating.
Atmos. It's the you see. Yeah, but you're saying you're too old for it, and that's because your mind is still in elementary school. You have to break out of that mindset. It's about it's about the beauty of American Autumnal. It's about Norm Rockwell. It's about life, man. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I could just appreciate fall without having to worry about Halloween. That's what I'm getting.
I and for the record, I do not have nearly as cavalier an attitude about the candy corn as my little song suggested. I have been in agony all day.
You're
That
just
was
super chill with candy corn.
yes, not my body, evidently. Well, I stopped putting candy corn in my cereal like I used to when I was, the young age of 28. Um,
That's so unhinged.
Sydney, sit. What? I don't know. People put like sugar in their Wheaties. Like people put sugar cubes in their tea. I didn't think it was that dramatic a leap to be like Cheerios, candy corn.
It's a pretty fucking crazy claim there, buddy.
What? It's just sugar again. Like we put sugar in fucking everything. It's not that big a leap. Anyway, Christ, it is officially November, everyone, and we are at the halfway point of the NFL season. I guess week 9 is technically the halfway point. We are entering the halfway point.
Yeah, week after week 9 is the halfway point.
Yes, a kind of a weird week for the NFL in terms of basically none of these games outside of one or two games. We really didn't have much competition this week.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say 2 games.
I mean, one or two games, despite the box score, you could at least squint and tell yourself they were closer than the actual score gives away. But yes, it was a very unremarkable week for a lot of teams, and a lot of unremarkable week for teams who we already know are bad, but also an unremarkable week for a lot of teams we thought were good, which is an important reminder that some days you really just don't have it in the NFL, and you can get absolutely boat raced.
Yeah,
I believe the average loss ended up being by about 2 touchdowns, somewhere in the 14 to 16 point range.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh, what's it called? There was only one game that I saw that was within 10 points for the entire week, for the entire league.
right.
There was an
Yes.
11. I won't like forget about that. There was an 11. Um, and there was a 1, a 10, and 11.
Yes. The weekend began with Thursday night football, where the Los Angeles gotta move on, Carter. They're not in San Diego anymore. Um, did the equivalent of shoving Carson Wentz into a trick or treating bag and beating him with sticks.
Yeah, he
And
got
that
the
kind of
Charlie
just set the
Brown
tone for the
treatment.
entire week. Yeah, it was real bad, man. That's one of my favorite dumb little stories because I did a lot of research on like the history of the Charlie Brown specials for a Disney Desk, and Charles Schultz. So, the director of the short, he was like a UPA guy, and he pitched the idea of like, oh, it'd kind of be funny, like down in his luck chuck, he gets like, he gets a rock from some house because they hate his costume. And it was Charles Schultz who was like, no, every single house gives him a rock. And apparently the director looked him dead in the eyes and was like, that is unspeakably cruel.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of crazy.
but Charles Schultz was just so adamant. He's like, it's only funny if it keeps happening. You have to do it. I love how, honestly, one of the funnest things researching it is like how hands-on Schultz was with like so many of the shorts. You know, the Peanuts compared to like, obviously Calvin and Hobbes and the Peanuts are kind of like the gold, and Garfield are like the gold standards of like newspaper comics. And all three of them have very different relationships with like merchandising and branding.
Yeah.
Bill Watterson with Calvin and Hobbes really did just take the ball and go home. And he's like, nah, it's just a comic. That's all you get. He briefly came out of retirement to do some strips for Pearls Before Swine, but that's about it. And, obviously Garfield was made to be marketable. And yet the Peanuts is weird because there's so much merchandising. There's so much branding, and yet it feels so much more like artisanal, for lack of a better word. Like it feels like they're very, very careful about the merchandising.
Yeah. I can agree.
But yeah, and I really do think it sums up the week that like none of the primetime games were particularly close. The Steelers Packers game,
that was at least
yes,
the closest, but also very enjoyable.
Yes. Basically, we got one. Yeah. It's bad when, like, the primetime games, which in theory are supposed to be, like, marquee matchups, are supposed to be at least theoretically interesting matchups. We're not getting pop from those. Shall we dive in?
We shall.
Yes. So to kick it off, the pack attack is finally not whack with a craft. Which I kind of, it's a little bit of a slant rhyme.
A lot of like slant rhymes and alliteration with your notes.
Yes.
Throw that out there.
I was just kind of feeling myself today. I don't know what to tell you. But yes, so the Sunday night football game, probably the marquee matchup of the week, was the 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers going against the 4-1 Green Bay Packers. It's always funny when there's a tie. And for a huge chunk of this game, it looked like it was going to be a classic for this season of the Packers of like, why aren't you dominating? Why aren't you like, I feel like you should be better than you are. Outside of those first 2 weeks where the Packers really put the hurt on the Lions and a team whose name I'm forgetting, they've really kind of felt like a good but not great team. Like our wish casting them to be like a Super Bowl favorite hasn't bared out. And from the first half of this game, it really felt that way. There was a missed field goal to end the first half, and Pittsburgh was actually up 16-7. Mm-hmm. For the back half of this game. It was a combination of like both on offense and defense. Jordan Love ended up, I believe, completing 20 straight passes in the second half. And a couple absolutely deranged throws to Romeo Doubs and Tucker Kraft to keep the ball moving. Tucker Kraft ended up having over 100 yards of yak and 2 touchdowns.
Tucker Kraft
and on defense,
insane that game.
Yes, and it is kind of like, again, we've talked about the teams who don't have the quote unquote good offenses who don't have a like dedicated number one wide receiver. And it's like, okay, but you kind of do quietly. You do need a number one receiver. It's just your number one but you basically need a number one wide receiver with less marketing. And it does feel like more and more the Packers have accepted that, and Tucker Kraft is that guy. He leads the team in I'm pretty sure he's leading the team in targets overall right now. He led the team in targets in this game. And he has a weird, unique set of skills that makes him he helps keep the ball rolling. He keeps the offense moving. And yeah, this game, both offensively and defensively, really felt like my platonic ideal of what I'd want to see with the Packers, of like steady, methodical, like artisanal offense with Love able to, do his like 2 or 3 times a game throwing an absolutely ballsy pass to make a huge play. And then on defense, just competency. Like Micah Parsons coming in, sort of wrecking multiple plays, kind of forcing a lot of incompletions because he gets pressure. And like, the defense not blowing it.
Yeah, they didn't fall apart. They didn't look like messy. They were just a competent defense.
Right. And on the other end, I do love the spiraling this week from the Pittsburgh fans because for just a brief moment, it felt like this season might be a little bit different than what they've seen the last like 7 seasons. And it is kind of funny that like the obsession with the Steelers for so long is like, man, this defense is so good. This defense has been a top 5 to 10 defense for the past decade. If we could just get average quarterback play, like if we could just get something a little better than Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges, and the charred corpse of Big Ben Roethlisberger, um, like we could do it. And funnily enough, now their offense actually didn't look that bad in this game. Again,
No.
they're averaging out to like the 12th ish best offense. The problem is the defense has completely fallen into a crater. And again, it's like what we talked about last week, where it's like hard to pinpoint exactly what's wrong, because a part of it's age. I definitely think like I don't know if TJ Watt has gotten a sack in the last 3 games. He's starting to look his age, as is with Cameron Hayward, and yeah, it's a weird hodgepodge of like very expensive old guys, young guys who like young guys who aren't being put in the best position to succeed, and like yeah, this was kind of the consequence of not like getting a decent quarterback fast enough. Of like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, the defense is finicky and volatile and like can fall off at any given year. And unfortunately, you finally got the offense in the year the defense fell apart.
Yeah, it's like the world trying to right itself of the Packers being, or not the Packers, the Steelers. It's like, all right, you guys are seeming like you're not going to be like a wild card seed with a
Mm.
just over 500 record because you can't be 500 technically anymore.
Oh, I hate it. Hate it.
Yeah,
Hate
I
it.
know
Hate
it
it.
drives you crazy. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah.
Um, so there's
Yes.
that, and it's like, all right, you're gonna have a strong one side of the ball apparently,
Yes.
and
It is a. What is the line from Last Jedi? When someone equally powerful on the light side was inevitably going to come up to meet the dark side, and it's like you can't have both. You're getting one or the
yeah, but you do that,
other.
and it's like, all right, cool. So like, we're gonna, the universe is gonna be like, yeah, you know what's gonna happen? Your defense. Well, your defense is gonna fall apart.
Right. And it's so funny because they still. It is wild to think for like, you know, the sort of angst that is overtaking Pittsburgh. They're still leading their division. They're still getting a home playoff game if everything's stable. But we're already looking at like two teams who are 3-5. The Bengals and the Ravens are both 3-5. I think it's so damning that despite us being halfway through the season and them having like a game and a half on everyone else in the division, they're not the betting favorites to win their division. The Ravens still are, despite how like season from helly it felt like for the Ravens.
Yeah,
We just like it's incredible that like I don't know. It's always incredible because betting lines have to be like, and I kind of cringe at talking about gambling, especially because that gambling story continues to loom over the NBA. But like it's so funny because it's supposed to be like cold hard analytics, just literally crunching numbers and like creating logical lines of logic, for lack of a more eloquent way to word that. But it's like I think it's kind of impressive that they somehow managed to like code into the betting lines the idea of like, yeah, well, Pittsburgh always falls apart at the end of the year. They're not a serious team.
yeah.
Like what? You thought this was going to be different? No, it isn't.
It's just like last year, just like the year before that, and the year before that.
And the year they went like 15-2 and somehow lost to the Browns in the first round, and their coach literally was at home with COVID.
Yeah,
That might be the funniest playoff loss of all time. They literally had the Browns literally didn't have a head coach, and you got crushed. The happiest moment of the Cleveland Browns sort of organ. That might be the happiest moment Browns fans have for the rest of their lives, and that's a very bleak thought. Um,
yeah. That's a team we'll talk a little bit more as the
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, we have
goes
to
on.
talk about them. But on the point of the AFC North, a weirdly AFC North heavy discussion this week, Snoop swoops in to save the season. Did you know that Tyler Huntley's nickname is Snoop?
Yes, I actually did know that.
I, where does that come? Do you have any idea where that comes from?
Not a clue, but I just knew that was his
Okay,
nickname.
I see. Well, yes. So, kind of, the Ravens are kind of in must win, like, it is a must win game every week for them going forward, to try and get the division or at least a wild card. And they end up defeating the Chicago Bears 30-16. Here's the thing Tyler Huntley was okay in this game.
I was
He
gonna
was
say,
17 of 22, 186 yards and a touchdown. Like, these are not remarkable numbers. And he also rushed for 53 yards. And, like, I was going to say, it looked like those numbers as you're watching it, of like, okay, he's not turning the ball over, and that's kind of what we need right now. And it's like, yeah, but that is kind of what you needed right now.
yeah, you didn't.
Like,
You have enough talent. You don't need. I mean, obviously Lamar, great
hmm,
quarterback, definitely should have him, but you don't need. You didn't like. You have enough talent. It's like, all right, we can put in a decent backup, and you're like, let's put in Cooper Rush.
right. I feel like this has been a very heavy backup quarterback season. And the kind of heavy backup quarterback season where I feel
It.
like Roger Goodell should just have a press conference where he's like, this is why you're not allowed to hit quarterbacks anymore. Do you really want to watch Cooper Rush try to carry this bum ass team?
I mean, yeah, I feel like it definitely makes a case for the backup picture to be like a lot more competitive. Because like you saw,
Right,
like Tyler Huntley bounced around a couple teams, but he always ends up back on the Ravens. Um,
right. Truly, because it's like, well, you already have the playbook, so it saves us time.
yeah, but I, it's oddly backup heavy, but it's not like other years, like kind of like Brock Purdy's first year, where it's just like we all need like permanent backups. It's like, oh, I need somebody for a couple weeks. I need somebody for a couple weeks, and it's just like it's not a lot of permanence to it, you know?
Right. It's yeah. There's no one. It's not. Yeah, you're right. Because that in oh god, I forgot that Brock Purdy year. I
That
believe
Brock
it
Purdy
was
was,
week 2. Trey Lance breaks his leg. Jimmy
yeah,
Garoppolo has some kind of foot thing in week like 7, and then Purdy had to
then
go the
it's
rest of the way.
Mister
But you are
Irrelevant season.
right, and you're right. It is like Marcus Mariota doing cameo appearances every other week. It is Cooper Rush and Tyler Huntley holding down the fort for a couple
Yeah,
weeks. It
Mac
is
Jones
it's
showing up.
yes, Mac Jones. Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing.
Tyrod
I'm like,
Taylor doing his thing.
right. And I do think this, see, what you're proposing in terms of backups is you think we just need to have a better system of backup quarterbacks. We just need to build a sort of second class of quarterback who are good backups. The problem is, it's like we barely have enough good quarterbacks to fill all 32 teams.
Yeah,
So we're obviously not going to have enough backups.
but
I am curious. Well, go ahead.
I want to say outside of Burrow, can you name like a week one starter that has been like that is done for the season?
Actually, I don't think.
Because like sure you have the situation with like
Oh,
Justin Fields.
Russell Wilson?
Uh, I mean
But that doesn't count. They just benched him
they
because he was bad.
I would say yeah that's like like you're bad we're benching you as opposed to you can't physically play for the rest of the season.
Like JJ McCarthy, who we'll talk about, kind of got soft benched, but he's coming back.
Yeah, it's
Well,
just
depending on Kyler Murray's currently being like out, so he might be done for the year. But you're right; it really is just like spot treatments
yeah
for all these guys.
yeah
But like, yeah, to the compliment of Tyler Huntley, it's like, look, this isn't like previous year. There was that period of the Ravens football from like, Lamar comes in, is really, really dynamic his first year. His second year,
correct.
he wins the MVP. He's the second quarterback ever to rush for 1,000 yards. And then there was that weird gap between him getting his new contract and like that MVP season, where it was just like he wasn't like he was good, but he didn't feel like he was progressing. And like the common refrain, which I don't think was unreasonable, was like, yeah, well, the offense isn't good enough. They don't have enough outside of Mark Andrews. They don't really have a lot of options at wide receiver. The running game is like good, but it's like system good, not talent good.
Yeah,
And that's not the case with this team anymore. Again, Derrick Henry's had a rough year, but he's still dynamic. Zay Flowers is one of the better. He's one of the
he's
better
I would
number one
say
wide receivers. Yeah,
I would say top 15 easily wide receiver
yeah.
one if not top 10.
Yes. And Rashad Bateman is like a reliable number 2. You still have Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely, we continue to, I wish he was more consistent, but he's capable of surprises, which it really is like, at the end of the day, if you can't have, you need at least 2 or 3 guys who are capable of surprises. But yeah, it's like this offense is competent enough that you just need, it's the same thing with the Bengals, weirdly enough, where it's like you just need competence. You just need bare minimum, like, the guy who's under center isn't going to wig out and like throw the ball into triple coverage or like take 12 sacks. Literally someone who can just like calmly and efficiently move the ball forward.
You need somebody like old man Joe Flacco.
Exactly. It really is like, I'm like, is Joe Flacco a great quarterback at this point? Not really.
But
But you
can
know what
he
he
get the
is?
ball to people like
Yes,
Chase Brown,
who
Jamar
are
Chase,
good.
T. Higgins? Yes.
Can he not actively cost you the game? Absolutely. And I do think also to the Ravens' compliment, it's so funny because last season the Ravens defense started really trash and then they got good. And it's literally the same thing this year. And it is really centered around Kyle Hamilton. In terms of like our sweet baby boy thing, he's my like apex of that. Like he has the throne because I just love him as like all purpose. Basically, it seems like the Ravens defense every year is figure out what we're not good at and move Kyle Hamilton there to fix it. So he's back to playing a lot more cornerback this year than he is safety. And Malachi Starks, the rookie who I really like, who's a very similar sort of like utility player, is now playing safety.
Yes.
And that seems to have fixed a lot of their like problems in the defensive backfield. And it's literally night and day compared to what I was seeing against the Bills. On the note of the Bears, so there was a big push to put what is their backup quarterback's name?
For the
Tyson Bagent.
Yeah, I think they have
Yeah,
Agent.
the whisper last year was like a lot of like the older veterans wanted Bagent to get put in instead of Caleb, and I'm just like, I just don't. And like Caleb's playing okay this year. There's work to do, but he looks more competent than he did last year, or at least in more control. And I guess like I'm like, all right, what is the logical endpoint of putting Bagent in? Like, is it the same? And I get it. Ben Johnson, like, got it done with an okay quarterback in Jared Goff, but it's like, okay, well, we saw the end game of Jared Goff. He kind of underperformed in the playoffs, and two good chances to win a Super Bowl kind of slipped through your fingers. I guess I'm bringing this up because here's my hot take for the week. I think that the worst quarterback we will see win a Super Bowl for the rest of our lives is Jalen Hurts. And that is not a slight to Jalen Hurts. I'm just saying that in the sense
it's
of like
dangerously close. If I didn't know how your brain works, I would have been like, easy there, slugger.
right. Like Jalen Hurts is like, he kind of fluctuates on like the quarterback ranking charts, but the worst he's ever going to be is like 12, right? That's like a safe bet. Like he can have rough stretches. Yeah, he has rough stretches every now and then where he's just like either not dealing with pressure well or like not pushing it downfield or he has like a bad turnover week. So like I really do think he's going to be the lowest rated guy in terms of like, because like who's won a Super Bowl in the last like since 2020? Hurts, Mahomes, Stafford. And it's like, yeah, that is like the baseline level. So it's like, yeah, you kind of have to try to make Caleb work. Or, except he's not, when he doesn't work, move on to another early draft pick. Like, you're not going to get there. Like, the age of Trent Dilfer winning a Super Bowl, I feel like, is over. So why bother with a Trent Dilfer when you have, like, actual aspirations as a team?
Yeah.
Moving on. Happy National Tight Ends Day.
It's National Tight Ends Day.
Yes.
Tight ends.
Now, here's my... Now, yeah, I was going to say, I didn't realize that this literally started just because of something
George Kittle was just
George Kittle said.
Yeah. It was basically a George Kittle joke that was just like, yeah, you know what? Like, I wanna go train at my place in Nashville for with like a couple of guys. And then he pitched it to specific. I think it was Greg Olson was the one that he pitched it specifically to. And then it's just like, oh yeah, can I bring these guys? And it's just like, yeah, sure. And then it just like kind of blew up in his face to being way bigger than like a bunch of guys just practicing together.
Yes. I've always been, yeah.
It's also like, because I've always like week 8, which happens to be the week of his birthday. I see you, George Kittle.
Yeah, I've always I've warmed up to it because I always like tight end is always the position I've liked the most because it's like the most versatile for an offense.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like I wanted to be a tight end, but I couldn't get the weight up. Like, and I've always dreamcasted the Bills to have a great tight end, and we might be on the verge of one. Like, again, I think Kincaid is better than his numbers suggest. He just doesn't get the ball enough. He needs to get Kraft level production. But yes, Tucker Kraft led the way with 143 yards. Hunter Henry had a touchdown. Dallas Goedert had 2 touchdowns. Don't look now, but he's quietly been the most reliable offensive player on the Eagles this year for some reason.
Yeah,
Um,
no, he's very good. He's secretly like he's very good at what he does. He's just a very like quiet tight end.
yes, well, because he's like a utility player. He has
Yeah,
very specific uses that like that
he's
benefit from everyone else around him.
he's like I would say 40% more of a blocking tight end than like Travis Kelsey, but
Mhm. I
they
think that's a fair way to
theoretically
put
get
it.
the similar, if not the same, results.
Right. Um, Weirdly quiet day from Tyler Warren. But in terms of other tight ends, I'm literally just going through all the tight ends to see who bathed the holiday in glory.
Like,
Travis Kelsey had 6 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown.
yep, I think that was his best game
I
of the
think that's all the
season.
major ones. Oh yeah. Well, quietly he's second in. It's so fun. Again, it's so funny that like everyone kept saying like, oh, they just need one really good speed wide receiver to open all of this up. And sure enough, it's like Xavier Worthy doesn't even get that many throws, but literally just because the offense is like
They have
functioning
to,
with the right amount of wide receivers now,
yeah, they
Travis
have to
Kelsey's
develop
good again.
around it.
Right. It's like, oh, they Travis Kelsey pressed the magical "be good at football again" button.
Yeah,
Um, what did George Kittle end up doing? That was an interesting
he
game.
he
4 catches. He did get the touchdown. Okay.
Yeah, no,
But yeah, actually a pretty decent day for tight ends, all things considered.
yeah, and by far, in my opinion, the like absolute front runner of the tight end being good compared to their goober being a goober
Hmm.
individual is George Kittle. He's the like
Yes.
he's the poster boy of that one.
Yes. Well, you know what it is? I really do think college has it right where like they have positional awards on top of the Heisman. Like they have like 7 or 8 different awards that are like for best defensive back, best wide receiver, best tight end. And I'm like, I really do. Tight end is like the ultimate position where I wish we had that because it's like there's never
So
going to
many
be a
unsung
situation where a
heroes.
tight Exactly. And that's why the National Tight Ends Day exists, because tight ends are the unsung heroes. You have to come in and effectively learn 2 different positions. You have to learn an entire blocking scheme on top, you have to be in harmony with the offensive line while still learning all of your wide receiver, pass catching packages,
Mm-hmm.
like not just the plays, all the routes you have to run, all the gadget plays you're probably going to be asked to do. And it's like, yeah, it stinks that it's like, is a tight end ever going to get enough raw production to get an MVP? Absolutely not.
No,
Is
because
a tight end ever going to get enough raw?
they
Yeah,
have to be both a like offensive like powerhouse and offensive lineman at the same time.
right. It's like if we can't even get Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley the MVP, how the hell are we going to get to a tight end? And even then, it's like, well, yeah, and then that means a tight end can't even win Offensive Player of the Year because we have to give it to whoever the best running back or wide receiver was. And I do wish like we had some kind of I do think that would be great for the NFL to have those awards to acknowledge tight ends. Well, all
Yeah.
positions, include like defensive back, linebacker, top down. I just like I know people don't want to they did the whole boomer complaint of like too many fucking awards, but I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very much a don't sleep on award. Just saying.
yes, honestly, we should probably
Edit
work
the
that into
document.
our end of year awards.
I was gonna
Yep,
say edit the document.
and
Throw that in.
duly noted. Write that down. Write that down. But another position that was bathed in glory this week. This was an all-time weekend for running backs.
Yeah.
So this is just me rattling off the 3 biggest ones. Jonathan Taylor, 153 yards. Do you want to guess on how many carries that was?
Oh man, I was gonna say I know he popped off, but I don't know the amount of carries. Isn't it like it's a stupidly low number, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm gonna
Yes.
say 12.
Wow, you actually got it in one.
Damn.
That's impressive. 12 carries, 153 yards. That is literally 12.8 yards per carry. Even if you take his 80-yard touchdown away, he basically still averages 7 yards a pop and a touchdown. Um, and he also caught a passing touchdown. He's one of basically in terms of running backs who have had multiple games of 3 touchdowns or more, It is him, Sean Alexander, Priest Holmes twice, and LaDainian. Literally all of the guys who broke the
Like
single season.
the guys. Hello, Carter.
Oh yeah, sorry, I keep blipping in and out of the Discord. Pardon me. I ain't pressing anything. I'm still here.
Yeah, I got you again. You're back.
Yeah, pardon me, everyone. Internet connection, whatnot. But yes, literally the only statistically comparable people in terms of Jonathan Taylor's raw touchdown scoring right now are all of the running backs from the 2000s who were like all pros and broke the single season touchdown record. When we had a period where it was broken like 4 times in like 10 years. Truly madcap numbers from him. Meanwhile, in the Philadelphia Eagles game, I will say I did boldly predict Saquon was going to go for the single game yards record in this game, and I still maintain he could have done it if he did not have a groin pull halfway through the game. 14 carries, 150 yards, and a touchdown, and it looked somehow even more effortless than the low carry number suggests.
Yeah.
And yeah, a must win for the Eagles in terms of like sort of pride, and they delivered. It's the best the Eagles have looked all season.
It is, and you also can't sleep on the fact of not even first backup running back, like running back 3, Tank Bigsby also broke 100 yards.
Yes, he is one of my. He's like in my DeAndre Swift sort of nexus of guys who like under the right sort of in the right circumstance with the right line with the right system can pop off and be great running backs. Like they don't necessarily have those incredible gifts of a Saquon Barkley to just be great under any circumstance, but like can have greatness, get can achieve greatness with the team around them. And the Bills running back James Cook, 19 carries, 216 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And I'm going to be honest, of all of them, he was like actually, because he had these numbers, they pulled him with 2 whole minutes left in the third quarter. If they really wanted to, they could have easily got him. Easily. Yes, but you can't in good faith keep the score was already 40-9, and you can't in good faith keep someone in when the score is 40-9. I almost wish the Panthers put up more of a fight so they could justify keeping him in the game. What was my line during what was my line in the group chat? It's like when Alexander's the Great's men mutinied against him, right as he was about to take the Middle Kingdom, he forced them to march through the mountains as punishment for robbing him of greatness. And that's me with the Carolina Panthers right now. Could you've just gotten 1 touchdown, a single.
It was another week where it's like it looked like they just did not want to do things that worked with them when they were on a tear. Like, is it just me? Is that just me? Like, I get the Bills are a very different level competitor than the Cowboys and stuff, but it's just like you don't look like you want to run it as much. Your passing game is questionable at best.
Right. We all owe Bryce Young an apology because in terms of talking about like backup quarterbacks who just don't got the juice anymore, Andy Dalton, you do not have the juice anymore. 7 sacks. Yeah, and yeah, that's the thing. What's weird is the game was very much winnable for them for the entire second half or first half. So like literally with only a couple minutes left, like about 2-3-ish minutes left in the first half. I keep wanting to say second quarter and then I blur them together. It was 12-3. Like not an insurmountable lead. That's literally like what? A touchdown and a field goal to take the lead? Easily winnable. Yeah, like, Cook is cutting you up, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but if you can get the game close and force them to pass, the Bills had no passing offense that entire game. Like, Josh really looks like he's, like, not trusting what he's seeing out there. Yeah. But, yeah, it was a back-to-back spine breaker of a deep, big guy interception. A.J. Epinesa kicks the ball deflects the ball, knees it up to himself, and runs it to the 1-yard line. Bills score a 1-yard touchdown. And then the Panthers miss the field goal to end the half. And then it's like, oh, well, now this game is over.
Yeah.
But they only ran the ball 26 times, which for a team that has had historic rushing numbers the last few weeks just feels like an aberration. Like it's like if the goal of this season is two things, it's figure out what identities you have and figure out if Bryce Young's the guy. And while Bryce Young is still up in the air, your identity as a running team seems to be established. Like, you're good
Yeah,
at running the ball. You're normally good at stopping the ball. I don't know what happened this game. Like,
it was
yeah, you're right. They just kind of betrayed what they're good at.
it was so that was just weird for them. Like
Right.
they I thought I was on the team of, oh, they're really hitting their groove. They really know what's cooking. Like they can smell it.
Mhm.
But it's just like, what are we what are we doing here? Why why
Right.
do we
No, you're
not want to
exactly right.
why don't we
And I
want
do
to
think a part of
call?
the problem is exactly. And I do think a part of the problem is also they're like trying to bring back Chuba Hubbard, who was out for a huge chunk with an injury. And like Chuba's a great guy. He's very good. But it's like you're it's not a must win game for you, but it's a you really could use this win and
It's a
you're
stat pattern for them in their
yeah.
division
Like what yeah, you need to
where
play the hot hand, not the
yeah,
guy who just came back from an injury.
yeah, they're the number 2 team in their division. Like
That's so funny. That's really funny.
it's super crazy. Um and it's like you don't want to like, I'm not saying you're going to be guaranteed a wild card slot, but it's like, yeah, you pull out this win, that's going to be a lot of moxie for a team that like,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't, it sounds bad if I just say that could just use it, but that they could just use it.
Right. Yeah, it feels like a classic overthinking game. And, maybe you wouldn't have won anyway because the Bills could literally just hand off the ball and get 12 yards. But, like, you made it harder on yourself than you had to.
Agreed.
Um, shall we go to the don't sleep on games?
We shall. I mean,
Yours is the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals.
the
One
New
of the
York
more, well, is it shocking? Who knows?
the New York Jets getting their first win of the season. So every team has at least one win now, versus which that's 90% of the reason why I chose it. That, and it's the closest
Yes.
game of the week against the Bengals, 39-38, which is very high scoring.
Right. And for a huge chunk of this game, it did feel like the Bengals were just itching to, like, again, we go into the half 24-13, and it felt like yet another Jets game with Justin Fields where they just can't, like, they're just not
It
pushing the envelope enough. They can't get the ball downfield, and
yeah,
maybe they get a touchdown in garbage time.
yeah, it also felt like, I mean, first off, it was a 13-24 half, so it's still like it was very reasonable like the entire game. But
Hmm.
they needed to just get it together a little bit, just a little bit more,
Right. And
specifically
honestly,
on defense.
right, it's because I can't tell, like, and again, I've been a big defender of Justin Fields, and I can't tell how much of it was like a masterclass of offense from the Jets, for 3 drives, 3 touchdowns to take the lead at the end of the game, or if it was a bungling by the Bengals. And my gut keeps saying it's a bungling by the Bengals
I
because I don't
think
think the Jets
I
were doing anything profound.
I am personally leaning towards more of a bungling by the Bengals.
Yes,
It
because
it's exactly what
yeah,
you said. The Jets weren't doing anything profound. They were
they
passing
were
it,
literally just running the ball and throwing 10-yard
yeah,
passes.
to their strongest players, Brees Hall, and like 18 carries, 133 yards, 2 TDs.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, no, you got this, and
Isaiah Davis,
you
their
kind of
third
watch them
string
fall
running back,
apart.
had a 50-yard run where yeah, exactly. There are two kinds of bad defenses in the NFL. There is one that is like talent based. Like I think the Cowboys kind of fall under this because it's like they're clearly well coached. Like they're in the position to make the plays 9 times out of 10, and then the safety will just not be able to close the gap to make the tackle, or like
They
the
bounce off
cornerback
and
will get like yeah, they'll bounce off because they can't. They are not they're backup safeties and backup talent safeties and linebackers who aren't the best tacklers, or like a defensive lineman will lose containment because the quarterback is just more elusive than he is agile. And then there's the poorly schemed defenses where it's like people are literally not in the right place. Like we're leaving people wide open. Like people don't have the discipline or like the know-how to get into position to counter this offense. Literally like a did you watch any film this week sort of thing. And the Bengals are inexplicably both of those because you watch it and you're like, well, problem number one is they don't have enough talent on the field.
No.
Like Isaiah, again, third string running back is running through linebackers. But then there will be plays where they literally don't seem to know where they're going. Like they're literally like missing, they're not closing the gaps correctly. They're not, someone had a gap in coverage. Like there's just no discipline anywhere. And I think that's the consequence of making Big Lou your scapegoat, like Lou Amaruno, the defensive coordinator, the scapegoat last year, because it's like, well, now you have two problems. Now you're not talented enough, and you don't have a good enough coach to at least alleviate some of the bad talent.
Yeah.
You're stuck on both accounts, and it's I wish I could mostly focus on the Jets here because, like, look, I know they're my division rival, but like, no one wants to see a team lose every game. It's a bummer. There's a lot of talent on this team who doesn't deserve that.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger case for me of
Mhm.
less like I mean we had one what I think the last one was like 2018 Lions something like that was the last.
I think the Browns were the last because the Lions were like 2010 ish around when
Okay,
Matthew Stafford joined the team.
I know it was
The
like
Browns have done it at
I
least
know it was
once
like
since then.
2018 was the right year, and I guessed Lions over Browns.
Right.
It's
It was
someone's
going to
gonna
be one of them.
guess. But
It was a coin flip.
it's like yeah, it's fun to see like once every like 20 years a team that just can't get their shit together in the slightest.
Mhm.
Um,
There's a fun Schadenfreude to it, but like it's also a bummer.
yeah, it's also a bummer, and like the talent, like this is an oddly talented team for being a 1-7. That might
Right.
just be my logic, but
No, I completely agree with that, frankly.
it just like Brees Hall, for example, who threw a touchdown pass, by the way. Let's not forget about that.
Mhm.
He's very good. You got I think he was out this week, but like Sauce Gardner was like the cornerback, like one of the top three cornerbacks for like a season or
Right.
two.
People have been saying he's falling off, and it really is incredible that it's like his EPA
I
has gone from like 2.1 to like 1.6, and it's like, oh, now he's just good, not elite, and that
Yeah.
feels like such a dramatic fall off.
It feels like
Yeah,
I can understand how it feels like a fall off, but I don't think it is one because
I agree.
it's just you look at the situations they put themselves in. They're in this rough spot. They're like, well, what do we do? We're gonna bring in
Right.
Aaron Rodgers, and instead of like
Which
it's
was obviously, why did anyone think that was going to work?
I don't know, but he gets hurt, snap a one or drive one of his first game, out for the season. So you're kind of fumbling around with Zach Wilson again. When it's like, we could have picked somebody else's backup.
Hmm.
Uh, we could have drafted somebody, whatever. And then
Hmm.
he cleans house of, in my opinion, a pretty competent like coaching staff and all that in
Right.
the like his second season, where I don't think their coaches were amazing, but when you use a lot of your like like bidding power, I guess, to make this insane Aaron Rodgers deal, it's like, all right, what is the point of this?
Right. It
And
was a move in all the chips moment with the exact wrong person you move in all the chips for.
yeah, like if it was someone like, for example, Josh Allen, who's still pretty prime,
Hmm.
it's like, all right, I can understand this one. I got this. I got this understanding. Like, you make sense. But it's just like
Right.
Aaron Rodgers, he spent, what, 15 years? Something like that, as a Packer. And was clearly like, age is starting to outweigh his usefulness. And we're like, and the Jets are like, let's get him. Although I feel like now there's some secret other motivations that are questionable at best. Um,
Right, right. Um, yeah, it's fascinating because it's like again, this team has always been talented. It really is just like yeah, but if you fuck up the quarterback position,
you're
there's
done.
a finite there's a limit to how much that can matter. Like, and again, the hope with Justin Fields is like he would be like what he was in the Steelers last year, baseline competency to elevate the talent. And this is the first game it felt like that. And honestly, that's why I want to be more effusive in my praise for the Jets than my frustration with the Bengals because we this was inevitable. We talked about this with the Bengals. It's like yeah, they didn't improve the defense. There's going to be a lot of frustrating games like this. And it's just frustrating because he had a chance to get back in the division race. And, God knows how many more games like this Joe Flacco has in his pants.
Yeah,
But, Justin Fields was pretty vulnerable in his interview after the game where he's like, yeah, I was really struggling. I was literally sitting in my closet crying because it sounds like on top of, the season not really going as he would have hoped. And, his owner throwing him under the bus for a lot of this. It sounds like he's going through some stuff personally so it's
which
like even if the rest of the season means nothing, like at least he got a moment.
yeah, which straight up, what an absolute d bag move by your owner. Like,
I still can't get past that.
how are you not immediately requesting a trade? That's something I don't get.
Right. It takes honestly, there's so many like honestly so many coaches or so many players have saint like restraint to put up with this shit
Yeah,
cuz I don't know how I would tolerate this.
like it's it's weird if it like comes. It's one thing if it comes from like another player who's just like this guy
Mm.
sucks. It's just like all right, but it's like when it's the owner, I feel like that's like a new level of like this guy's kind of a scumbag.
Mhm. Yes. But honestly, good for the Jets. Like, obviously, this season isn't going to go the way they want. And, who knows where Justin Fields will end up after this year? Because you have to assume, unless this is a particularly bad quarterback class, the Jets are at least going to
Draft
look
somebody.
into, yes. Um, but, for now, enjoy the moment. Enjoy sort of getting back on the horse. Um, Mine was a weird game, Houston, San Francisco. I'm not going to be too hard on San Francisco for losing this game because again, their team is
It
being held
was
together by duct tape.
yeah. It's it's one of those like it's not a really a it's like a Houston win, not a San Francisco loss because San Francisco only has so much going for them at this moment
Right,
in time.
exactly.
But
Yes, and honestly, I would say this was a masterclass in how you win a game when your offense isn't working correctly. Houston won the time of possession battle 41-18.
which is
They literally were just
crazy.
those are deranged numbers. Well, I genuinely was like, when I'm checking the score, I'm like, wait a minute. Houston still has the ball after 10 minutes. Their first drive was literally 10 minutes.
Yeah,
They really were just like, we are going to grind this out. We are just going to,
we're
like,
just
we are putting,
taking it down the field one step at a time.
right. It really did feel like the kind of offense you run when your offense has been broken for like a year and a half of guardrails up, move the ball downfield as slowly as possible, dink and dunk. And yet, even then, there were two or three throws from CJ Stroud where that baby boy energy kind of came out again of
It
he's facing the pressure because basically San Francisco was just forced to blitz for the back half of the game to try and get back in it.
yeah
And he ripped just one or two beautiful passes where I'm like, oh, that's the stuff I've been missing, baby.
yeah.
That's what we've been
This is
losing.
this is what I missed with you being behind offensive like a strong offensive line because I was actually thinking about it the other day when we were like
Mhm.
when he first started when he was like our initial baby boy and I was just like obviously not reflecting on this and I was like what was that moment that I was like yeah this he's our guy and it actually goes back to the his combine where like you ever like rewatch his throws for that
Oh yeah,
it is
and his pro day.
yeah it is the most like effortless just directly to where he wanted to go and it's just like
Yes.
I missed this. This was
Right.
your
And that's the
such
thing.
a great
Like
era for
I
you.
will right. And like yeah, and I will die on the hill. Like I will go to my grave insisting like me and you were on top of that from the get-go.
Oh,
Like
we
we
are.
were the guys who were like, "Why are you drafting Young?
It's
Stroud is the
documented.
guy."
It is
He was the guy
documented,
through
Carter.
he was the guy throughout all of college. He looked great. You know, he lost against Georgia in the playoffs, but he looked
Mhm.
absolutely incredible. You gotta go with Stroud. And it really there have been periods during this where I'm like, were we wrong? And it's like, no, we weren't wrong. It's just like
It's the
any
offensive line
quarterback would
that's
start to
wrong.
crack. Yeah. Yeah, it's like any quarterback would have cracked under these circumstances. And at long last, we just had like a glimpse, a nice reminder of like why we like this guy in the first place.
Hmm.
I'm also putting these guys here as like a bet because next week is going to be harder. They're going against the Broncos, who are going to be missing, oh my god, I'm literally
Bo Nix. Who are
no,
they missing?
Sertan.
Oh,
Jesus.
Sertan.
They're
Yeah,
going to be missing Patrick Sertan due to an arm injury for a little bit. But like for me it's like, all right,
that is an
you had
opportunity
your
to
get right
throw.
game. Yes, you got your get right game out of your system. Now can you carry it? Can you carry momentum going forward?
Yes,
Um
and like Texans defense has always been like very solid.
that's never been the problem, fortunately.
Yeah. So like them holding 15 to the 49ers isn't like that crazy of a concept. But
Mhm.
yeah, going against without Patrick Sertan, where it's like, all right, you can actually throw this to somebody, whether it be that's completely the wrong team, like Dalton Schultz, Hutchinson, Jay Higgins, not T Higgins, where it's like you don't really have any like crazy wide receivers, so I feel like that's actually a better thing to go into a game like this,
Mhm.
where instead of having like, all right, here's my guy, like Patrick, it's like Patrick Sertan versus AJ Brown, Patrick Sertan versus Zay Flowers, Patrick Sertan versus your wide receiver one. And it's like if you don't have a distinct wide receiver one, he kind of can just float wherever, and that's a bad thing for
Mhm.
the offense. Where without him, and without like a distinct wide receiver one, it's you have options in my opinion. Like,
Yes.
because it's like, yeah, say it was Broncos versus Eagles again without Patrick Sertan, they're going to be still doubling up on AJ Brown and trying to like block him from getting something going. And let's like inverse that, where Broncos with Patrick Sertan, Eagles without AJ Brown and stuff. It's like, all right, I'm gonna cover Smitty. Smitty doesn't like Smitty's in this weird spot. I'm gonna block Goddard instead. Like, but when it's like this weird unknown level of like lack of the guy on both sides, it
Right,
creates,
right.
in my opinion, an offensive advantage.
Mm. Right, it's like I think that's perfect because it's simultaneously a test but one with benefits to you where it's like this is still a very good defense, but it is weakened just enough that this feels like more of a stepping stone and not a leap to where you need to get.
Yeah, we like in my opinion, they did not get lucky in. I mean, they kind of got lucky in the 49ers game in terms of the amount of injuries on the 49ers,
Mm, mm,
but they did not get what's it called. Like they also their defense, I believe, would have been able to hold even their starters to a decent bit.
right.
So yeah, moral story is we were on the ground floor for CJ Stroud before he even got drafted.
And we'll hold out hope that it's all going to come together still. Um, shall we move on to our lows? We've actually covered a couple of them,
Yeah.
but
Um,
obviously we have to acknowledge
the
Scataboo.
oh my god, one of the grossest injuries, like that I've seen live, but definitely of this season so far, where you see him like he takes a fall, and it's just like, oh, he's slow to get up, and he's not getting up, and you see him lift his one, like he's holding onto his one leg, and it's just like, ooh, I think that's a thigh thing. And then you see behind the leg he's holding his other leg, where his leg is straight and his foot is dangling there off to the side. And it's just like, oh my
Yes.
god, that got me to gag. Like, I can handle gore and stuff, no problem. But that was one of those moments.
Yes. He is out for the season with a dislocated ankle. And, like, again, we can rag on the Giant. We rag on the Giants
I'm
plenty on this show.
I'm
But,
actually
like,
it
that,
sucks. Like
yes.
it sucks when a charisma player like that, like now that the Eagles are
Mhm.
done playing the Giants for the season, I don't think I don't think there's even a chance they can meet up in playoffs. Um, so many stars would have to align for that one. I can actually like truly hype up how much this Scadaboo Jackson Dart have been just impressing me all season. Like
Right.
like in my opinion, once the games are done, that is as like if you don't have to see them again, it's like that is it for the any possible rivalry for the rest of the year because following year is going to be
Interesting.
different teams in my opinion. Like, well, let me rephrase that, excluding the Cowboys, um, that hatred will always exist. But like
Right.
like I don't have to try and downplay how like it's like all right, Jackson Dart has like if this kid had talent to work with, this kid would be putting in crazy numbers. He just doesn't. They
Right.
started. I think. I think it was good they didn't start him immediately of the season. Let him let him take a couple reps like in games first before just throwing him in, especially with how they reorganized their entire like quarterback room.
Mm.
But the kid can throw. No one can deny that. And I think we said it last week where it's like
Yeah, I'm eating a little crow on that one.
if he had Malik Neighbors, it's like you would like for while he played, he could throw some pretty pick. Like you saw it in that game. You saw how good he could throw, like almost picture perfect passes.
Mm.
Um, so it's like yeah, and actually he had a very similar style line to Jalen Hurts. Jackson Dart went 14 to 24. Hurts went 15 to 20. 193 for Dart, 179 for Hurts, one TD down for Dart, and four for Hurts. But that's because Hurts has options. Hurts has AJ
Right.
Brown. Hurts has Goddard. Hurts. Oh, he didn't have AJ in this game, but he had
Right.
like Smith.
It is a bummer, right? Because not only did this game lay to bear sort of the weaknesses in the Giants, but it's also like it just kind of ripped the culture out of the team. It's like, this wasn't this season. Obviously, Dayball's like coaching for his job, but it's like more than winning. Like no one expected them to make the playoffs this year. Well, I mean, I'm gonna have to bite my tongue a little bit on that one
Yeah,
because I thought they were a sleeper team.
if they were
I just thought
healthy,
the pass rush would be better.
if they were
Yeah,
healthy,
if they were
yeah,
healthy, they'd be maybe they would. But yeah, it's like this was a culture building year. This was like, hey, this team has been kind of bad in a profound, upsetting way, and like it's not fun to be a fan of the team anymore. Can we at least fix that?
yeah,
And a part of that was that Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo were the perfect amount of like SpongeBob and Patrick stupid
yeah.
that like was inherently charming and lovable. On top of the fact they were also just kind of good in getting the team wins that they shouldn't have. And
I
now,
would say more
you've
of a
lost that.
Bugs Bunny and the Tasmanian Devil than SpongeBob and
All right, that's
Patrick.
probably more fair.
Like
Yeah, that's a little nicer, frankly.
Dart's charismatic.
But
He can pull things out of like nowhere. He might have Toon Force and he doesn't like the kid doesn't stop until like the final touchdown is done. Like
mhm,
3 minutes left. They're
What?
down 38 to 13, and Dart's still trying. Like he's up against backups, and he's going out of his way to score.
Honestly, I just feel bad for him too because he like when he realized what happened, he looked distressed.
Oh,
Like
he was
he looked
super
guilty.
upset. Yeah, he felt
And,
so bad. And on the bright side, they did do their traditional handshake and headbutt while Scadaboo was being carted off
mhm,
because they are the. It's literally like Looney Tunes mixed with Step Brothers with those two.
that's pretty good. But yeah, it's truly a bummer and like hopefully, the team
Hopefully,
will
this doesn't
I
hurt his career.
yeah, right. I know we've quipped about him like getting concussions and stuff, but you don't want to see it. And you do hope like a part of me hopes
My
a part of me
exact
hopes
quote from the chat of watching Scadaboo go out for a leg injury is like Steve Irwin dying to a stingray, where nobody expected this to happen. Everyone expected something like would have put money on it would be
like
a
getting
different
ripped
reason.
apart by like a lion.
Oh, he's a crocodile hunter, and everyone's like, oh,
Oh, right.
he's gonna lose
I forgot
a
that was
fight.
his name.
Yeah, he's gonna lose something like a fight to a crocodile, and that's gonna be. And it's like, and everyone's like, stingray, and it's like the
Really?
same situation with Scadaboo. It's like like you go Scadaboo's out, and you're just like the concussions finally caught up to leg injury. What?
Right. Look, I've expressed my dislike of South Park on the show a bit, but I do love the bit when Satan throws a Halloween party and someone's like, "Hey, Satan, someone's in a Steve Irwin outfit," and it's just kind of like, ugh. And it's like, "Hey, man, you gotta leave. That's really tasteless." It's
Yeah,
like, "No, I'm the real Steve Irwin." As the stingray is like jammed into him, it's like, "Oh, well then that's not a costume. You have to leave anyway." But yeah, I don't know. I kind of hope they keep Dable around because I would like to
I,
see one version of this with all the talent in place and like whatever draft pick they pick, and just like one earnest go of it.
I think I think with I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. With my understanding of the situation is
Mhm.
Dart and Scadaboo were Dable picks. I'm pretty sure, or I talked myself into
Yes.
it. Um, and with that, with how much results they've proven, with for lack of better terms, being on half of a team, I think they've earned enough credit for Dable that I do not. I no longer think he should lose his job this season.
Right. Yes.
I
Like, because, hey, maybe he isn't a good head coach because he's made mistakes this year, but I feel like he's earned, with the way the culture has turned around, I feel like he's owed at least one more chance.
Yeah, he's owed at least till this point next year, and we could do a check in
Mm,
then if nothing happens beforehand. Where
right.
he's he's got these picks, you give Dart one or I would say within the first 3 rounds, one or two offensive linemen, one offensive weapon, whether it be like a tight end or a receiver,
Mhm.
and then enhancement talent like have that be like two or three of your for like any first and second round picks
Mhm.
before you focus on defensive enhancement because their defense has kind of a decent vibe already that
Again, the
I don't
pass
think
rush has disappointed me, but, like, it has the potential.
but I don't think they need first or second round talent. I think they could use a waiver pickup and some like third or fourth round like oh this guy dropped to here, let's fucking go talent. But
Agreed.
I think like help for Dart and protecting Dart are one and two.
Right. I mean, I will say, and it's a funny point that, and I hate to be the commentator who just keeps bringing things back to his like hometown team, but it is funny. Like people have pointed out, it's like think of all the wide receivers who had career best years with Brian Dable while he was in Buffalo: Stephon Diggs, Josh Brown, what's his name, little guy Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis, and look at all the receivers who are having career worst seasons with Joe Brady. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, man, if the Giants got someone like Tyler Warren, just like a utility, like jack of all tools sort of.
You cut out.
I don't know what's going on. My computer sucks, man. I
I
don't know
could
what
have
to tell
told you
you.
that one.
I just wanted to change up my thing because I was listening back and I'm like, I'm too loud. I don't like that you hear all my jimmying and rustling. Like, I sound too large. But
Yeah, I
anyway, so
emphasized how loud you guys are when recording, so at least I know you're
mhm,
not like it's not like me talking, especially when it's like I propose a question and then it's just silence from the other side.
right. Anyway, other low light. Carson Wentz fucking died.
Oh man,
Um,
that
yes,
I said it during when the Vikings played the Eagles, and it's just like this guy is just tanking all these hits and not in a fun way.
right. Again, I've always had a soft spot for Carson Wentz because I can't imagine the weird like
Could have
psychic
broke into his
damage
wedding.
it would be. Yeah, that would have been funny. You probably would have gotten arrested, but it would have been funny. Um, but yeah, like the psychic damage of like having like an MVP level season, getting hurt and watching someone else take the final glory. And then like they draft your replacement. You get a concussion in the one playoff game you actually get to play in. And like again, he's shown flashes this year where you see like why people believed in him. Like he's
Yeah,
put on the razzmatazz, he's still got the arm, but like he's just dying behind this offensive line. He took 5 sacks, but it felt like a lot more. I'd have to look at like quarterback hits to see like quarterback hits was 8, so like he took even more hits than sacks, um, and ended up getting pulled from the game at the last minute. Like slams his helmet down because his shoulder hurts so much. He's out for the year with shoulder surgery. And mostly, I wanted to bring this up because I do
he
kind of
looked
have a
like he
little
was
bit
in
of
such a crazy amount of pain.
well, yes. But I also wanted to bring it up because it does like kind of add to a conspiracy I had that it's less that they soft bench JJ McCarthy because he was playing badly and more because they realized this offensive line doesn't have the sauce and wanted to protect him for another year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Carson Wentz was a sacrificial lamb to keep those extra hits from accumulating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'll talk a little more about the Vikings when we do our Don't Sleep On games, but it was an absolutely bummer to see a guy who, like, I know, like, he's an odd character in the history of the NFL, but, like, no one deserves that. Well, except Deshaun Watson. But, like, to the best of my knowledge, Carson Wentz hasn't done anything criminal.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything bad. He's not like a bad person, but he's like one of those people that's like you see him go, "Oh, this is a crazy amount of talent." Like and then he's just like it's like, "Oh, is this guy back?" And then he just throws an interception and it's just like, "Oh."
Mm, yes. Anyway, that was literally all I wanted to say on that end. Um, and then for our final low light, you chose this, Miles.
Yeah.
When I said some games felt closer than they actually were, the Browns lost 13-32, but it was 9-7 going into half, and then the like sort of the dam just broke, and mostly the Browns. I want to chastise one. Well, we should acknowledge Drake May continues to look really good. He had one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in this game, and he admitted like he tried to throw it over a guy and his over a defensive lineman who just picked it off. And his exact quote was like, "Yeah, I kind of forgot he could jump," um, which is at least funny. And it's funnier when you crush a team that it's more of just like, well, that's a little blemish on the box score, but didn't cost us the game. Uh, I mostly just want to bring up Dylan Gabriel having one of the worst performances I've seen from a quarterback in recent memory. So y'all remember how Dan Orlovsky, current ESPN commentator, once when he was on the Lions in that 0-16 season, ran out of the end zone and got a safety?
Yeah.
So Dylan Gabriel somehow topped that. They were at the 1 yard line. He gets a modest amount of pressure, really not that much pressure. It was not, at least Aaron Orlovsky was like being chased by Hall of Famer Jared Allen.
Hmm.
He throws the ball away, truly no one within 10 yards, and apparently just forgot that, if they call intentional grounding that close to the end zone, it's going to be a safety. Um, Frankly, it's more embarrassing than the Dan Orlovsky thing, because at least Orlovsky was making a play and just didn't have spatial awareness to realize he was going out of the end zone, whereas that was just a guy quitting on a play. But there was a lot of talk this week because Myles Garrett had a 5 sack game in this game, pretty close to the record, one of the better games any lineman has had in recent memory. And there's been a lot of talk about it's so unfortunate that he's stuck here. It's so awful. And obviously people cloak it in well, he chose the money, but that still doesn't make it okay. And I'm like, yes, but no one put a gun to Myles Garrett's head and told him that he should demand a trade to get the contract. That is the part that I kind of can't abide by. Like because I respected the hell out of his speech he gave when he asked for a trade of yeah, I don't want to end up one of those guys who is in the Hall of Fame almost out of pity because I got the stats and never won a game. I feel like it is kind of open season on Myles Garrett because it's one thing to take the money. Again, neither of us are risking our necks out there. None of us
No.
are risking permanent paralysis. Most of the people who shit on him aren't risking permanent paralysis for 18 weeks out of the year. And yeah, I don't blame you for going for the generational wealth. But to pretend to be enlightened, to pretend to be better and want more for your career, only to then take the money, it's yeah, I think you should get
That's
some shit for that, man.
yeah. It's so weird. Like it feels weird where he's just like he was putting up a fight, and I was just like, he's got to be gone. Please, he's got to be gone.
Right.
And then
I
it's
was
just
like, there can't be a version of this season where he comes back to the Browns, and yet here we are.
yeah, kind of like the Micah Parsons deal where it's just like it's going on for so long, and he's like his representation's like, yeah, we're not going back there, and then it's like, oh yeah, we just resigned. It's like no, he's like, I'm out of here. Your money can't save you now. That's what they need,
Right.
or he needed to
Yes,
do.
that is a yeah. I'm
And
disappointed in him, and I'm disappointed he's stuck there. But
just
I'm more disappointed at him because again, it's if Michael Parsons could get out of Dallas, you're absolutely right. There's no reason you shouldn't have gotten out of there.
I can think of, I would say probably, um, there is maybe at most 4 teams, maybe five, that wouldn't have a direct impact of him
Mm.
is like jumping to the Browns.
Right. Well, there was the whisper that the Eagles were willing to offer 3 first-round picks, unsourced rumor, but it's one that went around a little bit.
Yeah,
And
I
here's the thing:
I
if the
think
Eagles
he's
were 10% worse at drafting, I would say do that.
yeah.
But
I just
the
like the
Bills, you're not going
funny.
to get anyone for those first-round picks anyway.
I just like the funny post where the people or AI just clearly didn't understand the concept, and it was just like that means they're trading Quinyon Mitchell, Nolan Smith Jr., and I forget who the last person was, Giad Campbell, for because they were the last 3 first round picks for him,
Oh, that's so
and it's
funny.
just like no, no, it's like yeah, it could be that level of talent, but that's not how this game works.
Right. It's a fun trade to think of theoretically because it really is. It would be the Eagles throwing up their hands and saying the window, because the way the Eagles are built right now, they have enough young talent that they can probably artificially keep this window open for a
They
good
can
5 to 10 years. That would be closing it where it's 3 years, win 2 Super Bowls, go.
yeah, that's like they have. I mean, they have a very good success rate with draft picks. First
Mm.
off, at least as of recent. Um, so that they it's like, all right, we're having good success there. We have this good strategy of keeping this young hot talent in, and like only letting some of them go, and then we're gonna make long term crazy like what seems like crazy deals with offensive players to keep them in, and it's like they're good at that window. And I agree with you. I think if they like go for Myles Garrett for like 3 first round picks based off of the talent they have been getting from 1st round picks last couple of years,
Mm.
I think that is shortening their window from being like a long term franchise to Super Bowl window.
Agreed. Um, shall we move on to our notable notes? Well, we did cover. Only one
Yeah,
game was within 10
10 points.
points.
And one,
But our
one
question of
that's in one game was 10 points. That's it.
damn. Um, the question of the week: who is your don't sleep on player for the second half of the season? Who is someone you are going to be watching with immense interest going forward?
Mine's gonna be Drake May.
Great pick.
Um, Definitely feels like a little bit more of a like he would be someone to watch last year, but I think this year he's got this like they have this weird seeding of
Mhm.
teams and how teams have been turning out. Looking at you, Falcons and Dolphins,
Yes.
where it's like you got this like you have this weird amount of difficult versus non-difficult left.
Hmm.
Um, you have the Bills, but you also have the Jets. You have the Buccaneers, but you also have the Dolphins. Just once, just twice.
Hmm.
So it's like, all right, you guys have this weird lineup, and you don't like. He's seeming to have a lot of success behind like tackle Will Campbell. He seemed like that guy seems like he was the changing point of his linemen because
Hmm.
he's been killing it with these throws to Stefon Diggs. If Stefon Diggs doesn't do any flag like penalties on the way,
Hmm.
he shot himself in the foot a couple of times in one game where it's just like he made this beautiful catch, like it was like a 60-yard touchdown a couple weeks ago, but he interfered on the way, and it's just like, come on, man. And Drake May drop that into your basket, and he's got this weird like vibe going with Keishon Butte
Right.
right now, where those guys are secretly very in sync.
Yes. He's like a touchdown every other game wide receiver. Like, if you
Yeah,
don't have a receiver who's like a 10 catch a game guy, you really want an every other week touchdown guy in terms of like keeping your offense humming.
it. This feels like what the Texans should want to have with someone like C.J. Stroud, where it's like between Booty, uh, older Stefon Diggs, Demario
Mm.
Douglas, and like Mac Hollins. That's like four guys that can all clearly make a play when needed. I'm not
Right.
saying they're the top tier talent, but they're all very even in talent, and they can like when in doubt, it's like they're gonna make a play.
Right. That's a really good way of putting it because it's like, again, like Diggs is still, I feel like people underrate Diggs right now. I think he's still like Pro Bowl level, if not all pro level, but
I
it
think
is like
I
a
can
group of
concede he's
guys.
a Pro
Yeah.
Bowl talent.
Yeah. I still think, yeah, it is a collection of guys who, if none of them are going to be the story of the season, they're all good enough to make a highlight play. And it's a
None
group
of
of
them are
guys
gonna
who are
disgrace the team.
exactly. They're a group of guys who will elevate who will elevate, who can be elevated, is the way
Mm-hmm.
of putting it. If the Bills' problem right now is they don't have enough guys who can be elevated, this is a bunch of guys who can be elevated by a great quarterback.
Yeah,
There was an insane stat from Drake May 2 weeks ago where I believe he was 20 of 23 and completion percentage of minimum of 20 throws a game, uh, higher than Tom Brady ever had in his career.
yeah. No, he's very quietly a very, very talented quarterback.
Yes. He's
And
kind of, again, it feels like they kind of jumped the line a little bit, and it's interesting to see how they react to, like, oh, we're closer to being good now than we thought we were going to be.
yeah, and I think it's a good thing, especially with like you got Will Campbell on the offensive line, huge pickup of Milton Williams for the defensive line,
Hmm.
where they're sneaky, they're sneaky good. They're actually sneaky the leaders of their division. Um, and it's it's this fun level of lack of talent, I guess.
Right.
Like
Where, yeah,
I
they're
keep
scrappy
going,
enough to be good, but not talented enough where you're like, they're inevitable.
yeah. It like I keep going back to this team, but the Mister Irrelevant year where like Brock Purdy, um, like playoff bound because it's like he had McCaffrey, Kittle. Debo, like Juszczyk, and it's like, yeah, no shit, they're gonna be good with like any quarterback in there. We could throw the freaking San Francisco High quarterback AC Slater in, and he's gonna be good. Um, but this is like the complete opposite, where it's just like these aren't I can carry this team on my back receivers and running backs, but with the right field general like Drake May, you guys like these guys are like, oh, I'm not a threat this play, but next play,
Mm.
am I not your biggest worry?
Right, right. Um, Excellently put.
Thank you.
Mine is going to be kind of an obtuse one. I'm going with Abdul Carter, the defensive lineman from the New York Giants. So
I'm
much of my
kind
New
of a
York
fan.
Giants stock, yeah, so much of my New York Giants stock was the idea that between him, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Dexter Lawrence, they would have a pretty deep group of pass rushers. But so far, Abdul Carter has kind of not lived up to the expectations I feel like a lot of people put for him as like, oh, this is no brainer, defense of the year candidate, all pro talent, etc., etc. He only has
Uh,
half a sack this year. And there haven't really been any, like, outside of the preseason, there really haven't been any blowaway plays where it's felt like, oh, yes, this guy, yeah, because again, with rookies, it's like I just need to see a couple plays. I don't need to see a whole season of greatness, but I need to see enough plays where I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, you belong out here. It's interesting comparing it to Marvin Harrison Jr. There was an interesting discussion I was listening to where it feels like a part of the problem was he was just so much more physically talented than everyone for so long. He never really learned how to like take impact. Like he never learned how to
yeah.
like play in a physical space where everyone's stronger than you, but also they're fast enough to keep up with you. And he's having trouble adapting on top of the fact that it's not a good fit on the offense. And I am
I
curious to
can
see if,
understand that.
yeah. And, it takes rookies a while sometimes to really come alive. And I really would like to see. Carter sort of pick it up this back half of the season. I would like to see like couple signs of like, yeah, you are a linchpin defensive player. You are the sort of Micah Parsons light that you were hyped
Yeah,
up to be. Because it's like if that works, that solves, again, that solves your defense right there. That is the boat that lifts all the others, or whatever that expression is. Tide lifting
I,
boats.
I don't know. I
Yo
don't
ho ho
know.
ho 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 ho.
But I like. I think this is actually a very good back half of the season for him to do that with, too. So they have 49ers this upcoming week, week 9. And then it's like we have the Bears, Packers, Lions. Oh man, they almost ran a complete gauntlet of the NFC North in like a 4 game stretch. Patriots, Commanders, Vikings, Raiders, Cowboys to end their season. Where it's just, I think this is that right amount of difficulty for these younger guys like Abdul Carter, like Jackson Dart, to really put themselves to the test.
Agreed.
Where it's like, for example, Packers defense. Like they got Micah Parsons on their defensive line. They got some strong corners and stuff with like Van Ness and or is he a linebacker? Lucas Van Ness, whatever.
I
Um,
believe it's the linebacker.
he's a DB. Um,
Ah,
but he's like, it's like, all right, yeah. Watching Dart under these conditions, and then the inverse for that game would be watching Carter against people like uh, the tight ends, Tucker Craft and Musgrave. Watching him against, like, try and sneak up on Jordan Love behind a decent line. And yeah, I think this is actually a very good prove yourself rest of the season for somebody like him.
right. I think that's perfectly put. Um, shall we move on to next week? After this week from hell, from after this like sort of bye week apocalypse, things are sort of evening out to the middle.
What a rough week for like people that had strong week 8 teams. I'm looking at you, Tom and Kenny Mac, where they got like they didn't even get the least amount of points because the players they had in were good, but they only played with like 4 people because that's all they could play
Right.
with.
They just gave up.
Yeah,
God bless their heart. They just gave up.
but it was
Which it's like, what else were they supposed to do?
yeah. All right, bye weeks.
Um,
We have the Cleveland Browns, where Michael Parsons, or not Michael Parsons, well, Miles Garrett just has to sit there and think about what he's done and what the rest of the team isn't doing. Oh, God, I want them to take this time to just quiet all the talks of Shador versus Dylan Gabriel, because this guy has not like Dylan Gabriel kind of like has like a results, like not good, but I wouldn't be bragging about them
right.
in the slightest. And everyone keeps having this, in my opinion, this like rose colored glasses of Shador, where it's like, Shador would be the greatest. Shador would be best. It's like, yeah, but you hear about him from the preseason and like the practices, and he's like, kind of sucks. Just
Yeah,
throwing that
Mel
out there.
Kipers came out of the woodwork to be like, "Hey, I remember my draft profile for this guy," and I'm like, "Yes, we all know. You derailed an entire broadcast to let us know."
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
yeah, it's like, I don't know. Gabriel's been fine-ish, but it's like too many turnovers and not enough. Like the sales pitch for Gabriel is like, he's an adequate backup level quarterback of like he'll dink and dunk his way down the field and you'll be able to win with your defense, but you're not scoring enough to win with your defense. So,
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah, and it's like, all right, you got Njoku, who's like their, I would say their highest ranked talent on offense, and he's like a top 15 tight end. I think he's better
mhm.
than Judy. Quinshon Junkins has, in my opinion, like done decent, but he hasn't done enough to be like for me to be like, yeah, this guy's saving your ass.
Mhm.
This guy's just not failing your asses. But also, you're what 2-5, 7, something like that. 2-6,
Yes. Two wins? Yeah, somewhere
two
around
and
there.
six. So I got nothing for you. New York Jets, just take this bye week,
Yeah, you've earned
celebrate
it.
your first win.
Some people are like, oh, they're acting like it's a Super Bowl. And it's like, you know what?
You
They've earned
gotta
this.
let them.
Shut up. Don't be a spoil sport.
Yeah, you gotta let them. Next is Philadelphia Eagles. Love the halfway point bye week. Personally, big fan of that. Um, Good point to rest. I loved the tactical move of like when they pulled Saquon, where it's just like, all right, he trotted across the field. He like he pulled up weird. He was clearly uncomfortable, but he wasn't like he didn't need to take off his pads. He was like standing around on the sidelines, kind of moving around, keeping things fresh. So it's like, all right, you're not so hurt that you're done with the game, but I loved
Mhm.
that opportunity to pull him and just let him rest and
Agreed.
take that, take the bye week. Same with like AJ Brown, who's got a little boo boo, not big boo boos. Same
Mm.
with like Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens. There's a lot of little boo boos,
Mhm.
but and their next game isn't until Monday Night Football.
Oh, wow,
For
really?
week 10 Monday Night Football
Huh.
is their next game. So it's like, all right, take this time, rest everybody. No one do anything
That's
stupid.
that's really good pie placement, actually.
Yeah, and it's the halfway point. They got a. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe the rest of their season. I would say difficult adjacent. Uh, it depends how the Commanders play because they have them twice. They have Packers, Lions. They have Bills. They have Chargers. I also have the
Mm.
Raiders. So it's like, all right, you can. I'm not saying you have the easiest end of the schedule, but it is lighter compared to other teams.
Right.
At least
For a team
compared
that
to
just
you.
won the Super Bowl, it's not awful.
No. Um, and then Tampa Bay, the old Buccaneers. I think this is
They
another.
genuinely need the time for injuries.
I'm gonna say I think this is just another situation of, for the love of God, rest your players, let people heal up. Like, and Buka's been in and out. Same with Godwin. Mike Evans is done,
We
I'm
still have no
sure.
idea what happened to Bucky Irving.
Yeah, Bucky Irving's a question mark. Hopefully that question mark gets cleared up. Rest your people. You're doing great, sweetie. Um, Simultaneous, I think they have more difficult teams. Like some of their like a more difficult schedule and a easier schedule than like the Eagles did because
Yes.
they have this very interesting Patriots team, like coming in strong, and people might not be healed up. And then they have Bills, and then they have Rams, one after the other after the other. Um, they have a middle of the pack Cardinals, and then they end with um, I, the almost the lackluster gauntlet. I want to call it Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. So see if if the Panthers played like they did against the Bills, you're pretty much golden for the divisional slot minimum, and you can kind of try new things, get people like get second team and third team reps in. And but Panthers might put up a little bit of a fight. They're only down 2 games.
Right. The whole NFC South, I just don't know anymore because it's like the Falcons suck this week.
Yeah,
Like they made the Dolphins look like the greatest show on
Shoner.
surf or whatever we were calling them
Yeah,
back when they scored 70. Like I'm just gonna let the dice roll as they may for the NFC
I
South.
think yeah the Panthers are in a very interesting spot. They have the Falcons again, who they blew out last time. They have the Saints twice. They have, I would say, Packers, 49ers, Seahawks, where it's just like, all right, can like, and the Rams, where it's just like, can we go like 2-2 against these guys?
Mm.
If they play like they did against the Dolphins or or the Cowboys, yes. But if they played like how they played against like the Patriots or the Bills, no. Or the Jets, that game is terrible. And then they have the Buccaneers twice, where it's like if you go 1-1, I'm not saying playoffs, but you can make the Buccaneers a little bit more nervous, where they're not resting people in week 18. They're playing, and they're like
Right.
actually playing against you week 18,
Right. Right.
and that's all there is on the bye weeks.
Yeah, honestly, perfect timing. I'd argue it's perfect timing for literally every team. I mean, for Cleveland, it doesn't matter, obviously, but
Cleveland, it
like,
doesn't matter.
and Jets, it only matters in morale sense.
Yeah,
But
it matters because you can celebrate your first win an entire week longer.
mm,
Uh,
um, biggest game of the week. Well, it
it's
isn't. It
it's the
isn't.
right
It's a
choice. It's the right choice,
yeah.
Carter.
It is. Well, it is, but it's like it's such a weird energy this year because one, neither of these teams is leading their division for the first time in
Correct.
this matchup. They're
It's
both wild card teams.
so first off, the matchup is Chiefs and Bills,
Right. Right. We should have led with
but
that.
I agree with you that it is definitely weird. Chiefs are low. Bills aren't as low as like the Chiefs, I would say,
Well,
but
it feels like they're surging and the Bills are falling.
yeah,
Like the
like
Bills have had a bad couple of weeks, where the Chiefs have had their best weeks as of late.
yeah, but I think it's weird. It's very like the Bills just put on a fucking clinic against the excuse me
Hmm.
Panthers though, and the Chiefs with one more additional loss, and they've been kind of putting on clinics, but it's against the Raiders and Commanders, specifically a Marcus Mariota Commanders, where I feel
Right.
like it's a lot less plucky fun when it's like that. It's like, all right, you guys are kind of beating up on kids on crutches. I think
Right.
this is their first real test in a while because like since the Lions game, which the Chiefs did win, but I refuse to truly acknowledge it as a win because I feel like there was some fuckery going on.
Right. But also, it's just like I don't know. I feel like it's like, is
It's
this really a rivalry when
it's a
when only one team wins in the playoffs?
it's a rivalry purely because of that happening, and also the Bills fight back every time in regular season and put like a lot of time lay the smackdown on them. Outside of that, I don't know what would be the biggest game though. You have Ravens Dolphins for Thursday night, which
Me
is
drinking myself to death?
pretty much it's two teams that are just like who's less bad. Um, a lot of one-sided in my opinion. 49ers Giants, Titans Chargers, um, Saints Rams, Jaguars
Right.
Raiders, and uh, it's like okay, another contender could be Broncos Texans, but that doesn't really have like they're same conference, but they don't have as much rivalry. And I think it's a lot better of a game for Sunday night than Seahawks Commanders.
Right.
Seahawks look good.
Well,
Like Seahawks look good, and I think they deserve like a spotlight. But how healthy is it against how healthy are the Commanders are against?
yes. Well, you made the point. Why is this at 425?
Correct.
And the technical answer is because each network, because again,
It's
AFC is CBS,
it's all networks and it's
NFC
all
is
this.
Fox.
Yeah.
And each network is allowed to like lock in, when they're divvying up the primetime games, each network is basically allowed to have 4 or 5 games that they get to claim. They just get to be like, nope, we want this. We're not letting you have this,
This is
NBC or
100%
ESPN.
a claim.
And yeah, they always claim it. But my complaint is more like I hate the 425 slot. It feels like it's letting the West Coast rule our lives because for them, it's a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah.
Why did we design the schedule around the comfort of the West Coast so they get
It's
like a pleasant
clear.
afternoon watch?
It's clearly not designed around. I mean, maybe game
I
to game, but
disagree.
the 1 o'clock slots we get to sleep in. We don't have to wake up at like super early for football games. We get to and like do all of our morning chores, go get lunch, and then watch football. Well, they have to just wake up and go. Granted, their night. Also, I feel like it ends the night nicely. Like Sunday night football's over with. Like, dope. We can just
Well, they get to do
go to
stuff after
bed.
Sunday night, which annoys me.
But it's Sunday night. It's like
I'm a
before
night
the
owl.
weekend. Yeah, so am I. But it's like the aesthetic of it, where it's like, all right, game's over. Time to hit the old dusty sleep trail.
I don't know if I fully agree with that, but fine. Um, or don't sleep on games. You picked the one I wanted originally, Indianapolis at Pittsburgh. I feel like basically a do or die moment for Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Like if you're gonna be a dog in this, if you're gonna be a dog this season, it kind of has to be now.
Yeah, I think this is where they like. This is this fun like David team of nobody had faith in the Colts, and they're kind of.
I sure didn't.
I sure didn't either. They are the number one team of the entire league, I think, technically. They have the highest record,
Yep,
seven
only
and
team
one.
with one loss. Hmm.
Well, I guess yeah, they have Packers have one loss, but also one tie. Um, yeah, so it's like they're having like they have this healthy lead, especially on their division, and I think this is going to be like versus this version of Steelers where it's like, ooh, are we watching their defense fall apart in real time?
Right.
I think, and they're a very offense heavy team.
Right.
For example, points for. I'll tell you the second highest points for of the entire conference, and that is 214 points scored by the Chiefs. Can you guess how much the Colts have scored?
Well, I'm gonna guess it's like 60 more. Because again, like it's not just that the Colts are like a plucky team squeaking out all these wins. Like no, they are scoring and like their offense is on the same level of like the MVP Peyton Manning seasons
Yeah.
and the Patriots going undefeated with Randy Moss, Wes Welker, and Wes Welker era. Like we gotta start talking about them in those terms until proven otherwise.
Now you're pretty actually very accurate with that. 270.
Oh,
So
wow. I was pretty close.
you were 4 off from being exactly 60.
Um,
The
yes.
the next
Like,
closest in the entire NFL is actually the Cowboys with 246. So they have a 30-point lead on everybody, minimum.
yes. And yeah, like, again, we have to be honest about how good this offense is. And I am kind of like, the only hope and the only thing that might save my opinion of the Steelers is it's like, Mike Tomlin, do you just have one, like, coaching masterclass in you at this point? Do you have one, like, can you just scheme up a bunch of blitz packages, a bunch of coverage shenanigans that you've never shown before to get Daniel Jones seeing stars and, like, squeak out a win? That is really the only way I see going forward that they could pull this off. Otherwise, it really is just like,
It's against
it's
old
just going to be
man
a beatdown.
Rogers, though. So who likes to have more creative control than he should.
Yes. Well, this is he finally gave up creative control. The problem is the defense has no control over anything.
Yeah. So
Um,
see how that goes.
yes, yes, and mine is Minnesota Detroit, which last year was the dynamic, basically the only game that justified having an
A
extra
week 18.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it was like whoever wins this gets the first seed, and it feels like such a different like context because now the Vikings are coming in a little bit bleeding. Like this will be McCarthy's first game since week 2, and I don't know. It just feels like it has a lot of stakes because it's like, all right, you gave him time to catch his breath and like get his sea legs under him. Like no one believes it. He actually needed 6 whole weeks for an ankle sprain, but like that's up to the team to decide. He
Yeah.
kind of has to, again, this team is good enough to win a Super Bowl, and you kind of put up like you kind of made the Trey Lance move to go all in on a quarterback, but there's no Brock Purdy waiting in the background to get you there. If Carson Wentz was going to be that, it clearly didn't show, and now he's out for the year. It kind of is like I'm not asking you to beat the Lions. I'm just asking you to look like a competent starting
Yeah.
NFL quarterback, please. He's
Yeah.
had one decent quarter.
This, in my opinion, feels like a battle for like third place actually in the division. Um, can the if the Vikings pull things off, can they jump up to third because they're technically fourth? And if the like the Lions are fighting to not get third place, they're fighting to be fighting for one.
Right.
Because
Right. And yeah, it is actually also, you're right. It is an important game for the Lions, too, because it's like this division isn't getting handed to them. They kind of do need to keep the
no,
pace up.
they're yeah. The only reason the Packers are ahead of them is because of that tie. Packers are 5-1-1.
Ties, man.
Lions are 5-2. So it's like it's a matter of who gets what when. And Packers have Panthers, which I feel like is so like the Lions need to show up, but McCarthy needs to show up and not look bad. Because
Hmm.
I would say this is like this win would could be like the best step for the Lions to like actually make a play for first. So they got to play their hearts out.
Yes. Like, again, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, it's not like they can't just go get another quarterback, but like, it's hard not to watch Sam Darnold look somehow even better than he did last year and not wonder, like, the sliding doors of history on that.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
I
I think it's gonna be a fun week.
think so too. Shall I wrap them up for the day?
Send them home, Carter.
I would like to end. I know I usually end on like a little quip or like a dumb joke that doesn't make any sense, and Kevin cuts me off out of sheer pity and mercy than anything else. But I would like to take like maybe like 5-ish, 10-ish minutes to kind of talk about a personal, like kind of a slightly more serious topic. I've made one or two quips during the last episode about dealing with some personal stuff. Um, I think I've mentioned once or twice since we started the show that I am a caregiver for my father, John. He suffers from a disease called CIPD, which is a neurological autoimmune disease. Basically, it is your immune system getting rewired and panicking and kind of targeting your nervous system to kill viruses that aren't there, in effect, affecting your ability to walk, your ability to breathe, your ability to move, because once you take the nervous system out, all of your muscles start to go with it. He had recently been in and out of the hospital over the last few months, dealing with a string of infections that no amount of antibiotics were seeming to help. Um, Monday morning on October 20th, I got the call that he had gone into cardiac arrest. And when I arrived at the hospital about an hour later, they informed me that while they were able to restart his heart, the hope that he would recover, as many do with CIPD, was effectively over. Best case scenario is he would be on life support for the rest of his life and probably need to be in a long term care facility. After some discussion, it was decided that we would pull the plug, and my father passed away at 9:11 in the evening. As per usual, he was a staunch lover of his children and was able to hold out for about 6 hours so my sister could get to Philadelphia in time to say goodbye. Um, it has been, it's been difficult. I Taking care of my father kind of was my life. I've had to put a lot of career aspirations, a lot of outside world aspirations on to, help him recover. And for the longest time, we were recovering. For all the frustration the last few months have had, looking back on it, I was really proud of how he was working and how much progress he was making and the little victories we had in between all the frustrations. And to have that chapter close sort of unceremoniously and end in a non-happy way just really wasn't in the cards. I have kind of been drifting the last few weeks if I've seemed off on Disney Desk and on this show. I will say, to the credit of all of my friends, you have all been nothing but excessively supportive, excessively helpful. The sheer amount of kindness I've gotten has been overwhelming in a way I'm not really good at articulating. I will say I made the executive decision not to inform our friends Tom and Aaron, who were on their honeymoon, about the situation because I didn't want to damper their experience, which they responded, "We would have gotten you more stuff from Japan if we knew." And I really am just kind of like, damn it. But I guess to sort of lighten the mood, I kind of wanted to talk about my dad because he is why I'm here. He was a 4-year all conference offensive lineman for Bart. Sort of fittingly enough, the weekend before, the following weekend, a lot of his former teammates, both just on the football team as a whole and his fraternity that he was president of, Kappa Sigma, we're all meeting up to celebrate the fact that for the first time since they did it, they defeated their rival Rochester 4 straight times. Like a graduating class beat them all 4 times. They actually had rings commissioned, and I had to rush home so my dad could see it before he passed on. I decided to keep it with me as like a little memento of my father. He loved football. He was born in Orchard Park, New York, which, for people who are not familiar, is the suburb in which the Buffalo Bills Stadium actually is. And it is never kind of winsome and cool to drive through truly the most suburby suburb that's ever suburbed in the middle of upstate New York, and then to just see a huge NFL stadium right smack dab in the middle of nowhere. He was a season ticket holder for his entire life, at least his entire life living in Buffalo, New York. He grew up during the O.J. Simpson years, and he would always describe it so funnily. Apparently, they shared a row with, as he described it, a very, very heavy man who chose to cover himself in body paint. And anytime OJ would get the ball, this guy would slap his stomach and go, juice, 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 juice. And anytime he would even get 5 yards, he would grab my dad by the shoulder. Keep in mind, my dad was a child at this point, and go, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" One of my favorite little tchotchkes I have from my dad's collection was an old magazine. It was sort of like a Buffalo Bills seasonal periodical that had OJ and the offensive line on the cover. It was OJ Simpson and the Electric Company. They were called that because they helped the juice flow. Um, he was a fan throughout the entirety of the 90s K-Gun era. He maintains to his dying day, he maintained that when they got to the first Super Bowl in 1990, and he was watching like the pregame show and the warm-ups, he swears that when they cut to Scott Norwood, he said, and I quote, "If it comes down to that little nerd, we're fucked." He proceeded to flip the coffee table that night. And I do think, talking about my father, it really is that passion that he was able to maintain for his entire life for this football team that is both maddening and aspiring. Like, like one of my biggest memories during my time watching football with him was a truly meaningless football game. I'm sure I meant to write down what the date is, and I will come back next week with it. I believe it was somewhere around 2008 or 2009. The season, it was one of those seasons that was absolutely in the pits. We had already been effectively eliminated from the playoffs, and we were playing the New York Jets, who I believe also were statistically eliminated. Truly a meaningless, nothing, who cares game at the end of November, early December. And we had the lead. All we had to do was run out the clock or even just punt the ball away and we would probably win. They proceeded to do a bootleg rollout with JP Losman, one of our three first round quarterbacks we drafted during my time watching this team. Ball squirts out like a cartoon character. A defensive lineman picks it up and they score the touchdown. And I will never forget, my dad just gets up, takes a minute, you can tell he's doing in the math in his head of like, how loud should I yell as to not scare my kids but properly express my frustration with this situation. And when they cut to Coach Dick Duran, he just screams, "You deserve to be fired," with the most like the kind of indignant tone that you would hear from like a politician saying, "Have you no shame?" Despite everything that man experienced during his time being a Buffalo Bills fan, the brief highs, the cartoonish lows, truly as much heartbreak as damn near any fan of a football team can have from their origin, because again, he was on the ground floor of the team. He still had that fire in him into the 2000s when it truly felt like we were never going to get to the playoffs again. I realize a lot of my frustration with the team that has been recorded on this show, a lot of my like angst and like hand wringing and demanding that Sean McDermott pay for our sins, really was less about me and my relationship with the team, and so much more about my relationship with my dad. I wanted this for him, not me. Like he's been there from the start, and it's so like it was so tough like watching all these playoff losses and just watching us like just come up short every damn time. I really had held out hope that during this illness, no matter what, we would get one. He would get to see it. And unfortunately, like the final memories he will have of the football team is me moving him to his bed after a difficult Patriots loss and being like, well, at least Kincaid looks good. I I don't know. I guess I don't really have like an aggrandized big point I'm building up to. I just kind of wanted to, and I've already had to write so much about my dad for his fraternity, for his business connections, for my family members, for myself as to cope and grapple with what happened. And I do think it is both like it's made me question my fandom in a way of like, now that he's gone, what am I doing this for? What am I doing this Buffalo Bills thing for? But also an affirmation of it that like throughout it all, he found that passion and fire in him for his hometown team. He loved this team. Like, you know, he had a lot of loves in life. He was, he was a varsity athlete who led his fraternity and loved every single one of them like brothers. He loved his parents to the bitter end. He was he took immense pride in his ability to, tell stories like I do, but in a different form through his business connections, through being like a marketer. You know, he loved beer, he loved wings. He has very strong opinions on like the nonsense that places like Wingstop and Wings to Go and Buffalo Wild Wings call buffalo wings. We can get into that another time because I know I'm already well gone over my 5 minute promise here. Um, you know, he loved exercising. He took great pride in like getting himself back in shape at age like 50. He effectively overcame his diabetes and his obesity diagnoses to get into the best shape of his life at as he called it his halftime adjustment. He literally made like a social media page talking about his wellness quest and called it halftime adjustments. Like, and above all, like he loved this fucking football team. And even during the bleakest periods, even during the most heartbreaking moments, he still found that passion and spark. And if that is not emblematic of like why we do this stupid shit, then I don't know what. And as I kind of like had to have paused and reflected on a lot of memories, both good and bad, with my dad, and trying to remember all the good memories. So my last images of him weren't him finally losing the fight to this awful disease. I'll just think about all those moments during the 2000s when this team sucked ass, when it was a miracle if we would get one single primetime game or one single nationally televised game. We would just be sitting there with Red Zone on, with a laptop out, keeping track of the little ESPN field tracker, just hoping that the next time they updated it, we would see something good. And yeah, you know, it's been a tough road, but like no matter what my journey is with the Bills going forward, I I will give them credit for giving me something to connect to with my dad.